We have math in today.
Let's just stick with the math.
We don't know if you can hear us or not out there.
No.
In that formula. Leslie's nodding yes, even though she can't hear because there's no place to plug her. With our new equipment, there's no place to plug in her.
You guys are good. You're on.
We're on. All right. So sorry we are 12 minutes late, everybody. We had some technical difficulties.
Technical difficulties. And you'll notice Alex is not here.
The three of us were like scrambling around wildly. And the picture won't be as nice, Leslie.
No.
Because we're using something that looks, it's like the size of a dime.
Mm-hmm.
That thing.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
But there is a picture.
We're
There
on
is.
Facebook.
There is.
Yeah.
You're on Facebook.
So Alex is watching with us.
He's
So
talking
King
about
Glory.
us. Yeah, there's going to be loading. So we got some really cool new equipment, which we just couldn't get to work. But it's steadily building. And thank you, Steve, for telling us that we weren't on yet. I think that's what he might have said.
Yeah.
Are you live yet? I cannot find you. It even in the text, it had a note of sort of like a mild panic to it. Steve, so thanks for joining us.
So we're here now.
We are. We're here now, and we're here to talk about profit.
Yeah.
Which makes most people happy.
Yeah.
You said it makes you happy.
Definitely excites me.
And if you make profit, like this is a big mental barrier for a lot of people. They say, oh, I want higher profit, I want more profit. But there's a part of them that thinks like, well, I'll have to work harder for that. I'm already flat out.
Right.
So we're going to show you the errors of that sort of thinking here.
Steve said he's glad we made it.
Yay! Go Steve. Go Team Richardson. So we want to talk a little bit about that and some of the mindset issues of our life. But we've got some very, very practical things. And we have math.
Yes.
But don't worry. We're going to do the math for you. And we will astonish you with our math tricks, I think.
I think so.
So one of the things that we found is that there are fewer ways at the strategic, like sort of the big picture, to increase profit and profit margin than people think. But there's some really essential precursors to being able to get a maximum benefit out of this. So you have to know what you sell.
Right.
And a lot of people don't. Right. I talk to lots of companies, they really do not know everything that they sell, even some service organizations. And what they really don't know is the next step, which is what does it cost to provide that? Mm-hmm. So a lot of people do not have an understanding of what do they have to sell, how many units of each thing do they have to sell, and what does it cost to provide that. This should not be an insurmountable threshold. Like the closer you get to the real number, the better, but it doesn't have to be exact because you're going to find out that once you know a couple of these things, so what do you sell? Just go and make a comprehensive list.
Right.
If you're like me and you're a law firm, you may be saying, well, there aren't that many things, but I'll bet there are. Like even as a trust and estates lawyer, I sell durable power of attorney, living will, medical power of attorney, wills. Some people like trusts. Some are revocable, some are irrevocable, some are asset protection trusts. So some people come in for elder law. So there's a lot of products in there. And then some of them are sold a la carte or individually, and some of them are bundled. So you sell bundles of things too. Right?
Absolutely.
And you sell some things a la carte. Like you have retail stores, so people are buying.
They might be buying apparel, training equipment, your training uniforms. Those can all be bought a la carte. They could be bought as a bundle.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything that you might need at a certain level of training, you can get as a bundle. We can bundle the product with the service if you elect for a higher level of service.
And so we do that too. So we're about to produce a really thick, comprehensive trustee manual because one of the things we found were people like, no matter how many times you told them, they would not do as the trustee of the trust what they were supposed to do.
Right.
So we produced this resource for them and they can buy it and we can bundle that with certain kinds of services. So first step, make a list. So right now you're going to put one, schedule the time to make a list of every product and service we sell.
That's right.
Pretty easy. Now, for some larger operations that have tens of thousands of SKUs, that's almost certainly computerized, so you're going to be able to go and take a peek at that. And what you'll be surprised by is how few of those SKUs actually make you money. We'll talk about that next. So what are the numbers sold and the profit margins on each? That's more complicated. Let's break it down. The first part's pretty easy. So I would just go back and say last year in 2016, or if you didn't have a full year extrapolate.
Sure.
how many of each of these things did I sell?
Right.
So the first two things, pretty easy project. What is it that I sell? Let's get a comprehensive list. How many of each do I sell? Because you're not going to be able to do the magic that's coming unless you do that. Now, here's one where I have people tell me, oh, I know the profit margin on each of these, but they don't really, when you look at it, they haven't really allocated their overhead, like
Right.
general employees and things like that, across this line of goods. So what we sort of want to know is how much does it cost to get that thing out the door? So, for example, with you, if you're selling sports apparel,
Sure.
you have a cost of acquiring that.
Right.
You have shipping, unless you negotiate that shipping's waived by some supplier as
Sure.
part of a deal or something like that. And then you have to store that inventory, which takes up space, and you have to heat that space, and you have employees that are providing a whole bunch of services there, but you have to allocate a certain percentage of them to certain types of things. So what we want you to do here is get a relatively ballpark idea of the cost of goods sold. So even if if you're in a service kind of business like we are,
Right.
Which is the predominant source of revenue for our two businesses. This would be easier for Alex, who's not here. He's getting settled into Kansas City, by the way. And at some point, I might tell the story of us driving out there. We might have to have
It's quite a doozy.
It's a doozy. It has everything. It has emotional. It's like an emotional roller coaster. It has a car breaking down. It has people helping other people they don't know.
It really is a story of redemption, though.
It is ultimately a story of redemption. We haven't forgotten, though, where we're going here, which is if you could just get in the ballpark. So if you, for example, sell, let's make it simple, and you sell two things.
Right.
The very lowest level of getting a handle on this, you're going to want to know, what does each of these cost me?
Right.
And what do I sell them for? Now, if one or the other of them takes double the amount of time, so let's say the more expensive, let's say we've got two. One costs you $5 and you sell it for $10 or $15.
Right.
And the other one costs you $100 and you sell it for, I don't know, $2,500.
Okay.
If that one takes a lot of your employees' time, you better add something to the cost of goods sold. If the other one is just to check out, no big deal. We're in the ballpark now. If you do those things and you add one last thing to it and figure out how much does it cost you to get the customer for each. So this is hard for some people, but if you add up your total advertising budget again, and you divide it across the number of items that you sold, you'll have an approximate idea. But it would be better if you could find out what the cost was to get a client that paid you, $15 for that one item versus the client that paid you $2,500.
Right.
It would be better if you could figure out, because it's probably going to cost you more to get that higher spending client in the door. So those are the things that you need to find out. What is it that I really sell? Let's get a list of all of those things. What's the approximate cost of goods sold? What are the numbers of each that I sold? And how much does it cost me to get a customer in the door? If you do that, you're going to be repaid for this exercise, which shouldn't take you that long if you have reasonably good business record keeping. You're going to be paid over and over and over and over and over again for taking the time to do that. So we're going to give you a formula, and there is some math involved in this formula. So a couple of other simple factors that we want you to consider are the leads. We want you to start thinking about these concepts. Leads. This is the total number of people who have contacted or been in contact with you. You've contacted them, or they somehow heard about you and come in over the course of the year. So this is going to be different than the number of customers.
Right.
So this is if you're advertising and people call up and they say, I'm interested in that. They're like a lead. They may or may not convert to being a customer. If you are driving them to a website, you're going to know how many people opted in and said, I'm interested in the lower priced or higher priced item. The conversion rate. So this is, and we're going to get to this relatively simple formula. What's the rate of conversion of the people that come in? So if you had 100 leads and 10 people came in and became customers, you'd have a conversion rate of 10%.
Right.
So for our little formula, you're going to want to know how many leads do I get for each of these? What is the percentage of those leads that convert and become customers and spend money and give me money? what's the average dollar sale?
Mhm.
So, when a person comes in for you, how many? Well, are you comfortable talking about your conversion rate?
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
you do advertising, you have net-based
Mhm.
stuff. Roughly, how many people do you count as a lead in a year?
We'll probably do about 3,000,
And of those, about
Leads.
how many leads convert?
10%.
About 10%.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So now what you would do is you would take all of those people and you'd see how much they spent and you'd come up with an average amount that an average customer gets you. Now, we're working on this at a more sophisticated level, so we're sort of taking a look at each of the individual things that we sell.
Yeah, and we also look at, to get somebody from being a lead to being a, ongoing recurring member, there are actually several conversions happening.
Along the way.
Right. So we're looking at conversion rates, from being a lead to just trying it out.
Right.
We consider that a conversion, even though they may or may not be a buyer yet.
Ultimately.
Right.
So a couple things that Sam's pointing out there is we're really talking about, for the purposes of this formula,
Right.
when they buy.
Right.
And then you have some people that sign up for a 3-year plan.
Right.
Some people that sign up for a 1-year plan. Some people that buy multiple Doughbox.
Mhm.
Some people that buy a bag. Some people that buy other sports drinks. So some of those customers, some of those 10% are worth more to you than others.
That's right.
So the best way to do this is to know what kind of customer is worth more, because the averages kind of hide some things. But for this purpose
Right.
today, just to get people thinking this way, because this can make a dramatic difference in business, this could double, what we're going to show you, could double or triple profit margin
Yeah.
with very few little things that you have to do. Especially if you're earlier in the game, but even if you're a mature business doing millions of dollars of revenue, this can make a dramatic difference. So here, we're just going to go for the average. And let me just give you one more example of what I mean by the average hide things. So I was talking to somebody that I work with, and they were trying to figure out, when do people, on average, opt out or leave and stop paying the money? And I said, well, be careful, because if you have people leaving in the 2nd month and then you have people leaving in the 13th month, it looks like the average person leaves at 6 months.
Right.
So if you start rolling out all these things to keep them from leaving in the 5th month, you're totally mistiming that.
Right.
So we don't want to mislead you. It's like anything else. You keep taking this to better and better, more effective levels. But for you right now, all we want you to do is figure out, all the things that you sell,
Right.
and then how many leads you get, and the conversion rate of how many of those become customers. Then the average dollar sale, and the average number of transactions.
Mhm.
Okay? So there's a certain number. Leslie's smiling, so somebody must be saying something weird.
Oh yeah, well, Katie Harper says you look absolutely fabulous, and she
With
thinks you with your new
My
haircut.
new haircut.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she really likes it. Also, Greg is just checking in. He's on the
Hey,
road
Greg.
to a winery in Glen Mills.
Well, that's a very good
Yeah.
decision on his part, I think.
Yeah, we also have Steve Richardson in. So
Steve,
Yeah.
thank you. I still owe Steve. Steve, I just set up a notebook and I videotaped how I was setting it up. So if I could get that edited, I owe that to Steve first. He gets it.
Yes,
He's
sir.
one of our winners. Oh, we have, by the way, a couple of things to give away today. So let's remind everybody. We have a tactical flashlight to prepare for next week's show.
oh, fun.
Next week's show is the Go Bag. I say that euphemistically because Buster's going to terrorize everyone for using the expression Go Bag, because it's true that for most people, you're not going to want to go unless you're an experienced outdoors person. You can live off the land. The go idea in the event of an emergency could be more dangerous than the stay.
Right.
So we want to talk next week with Buster Tate, who Sam knows. You don't know Buster yet. You're
I
in for
don't.
a treat.
I'm
He's
excited.
coming up early, and Buster's go bags are always loaded with weapons. It's a leftover from the old days in Iraq.
That's
Yeah.
exciting.
But we're going to talk about what you should have in your home to survive a period of time when you don't have
Right.
food or water.
Katie wants to know if underwear is incled.
Oh yes, it absolutely
And the
is.
giveaway.
Yes, the MeUndies. Did you see we had a MeUndies?
Yeah.
Like little ad in there. We'll do any. Listen, that is super comfortable underwear. I don't want to get into how I know specifically, but super comfortable. Have you experienced MeUndies?
No.
So you can't give us the female
I
perspective.
can't.
Sure.
No.
So I think it would be creepy if the show bought them for you. So
We'll save them for the Leslie Unleashed.
Yeah, Leslie Unleashed. It will be another show. But Buster's coming up from DC. We're going to be talking about what you should have in the house.
Mhm.
We're going to be talking about what you should have in the car
Oh, very nice.
because you might have to try to get home from somewhere.
Right.
And we're going to talk about a go bag from the office, which Buster calls the get home bag, which is, like if you work in the city and you got to get out here,
Yeah.
and there's a catastrophe of some kind, that can be really important. So that's going to be a great show. As part of that, we've got the tactical flashlight giveaway. So anybody that shares this video today at any time,
Yeah.
just let Leslie know that you shared it.
Yeah.
And-
We've got a few shares already, so keep
awesome.
them going.
Everybody's entered to
Nice.
win. When you let Leslie know, how do they messenger you, Leslie?
You can do it in top form.
Right, in top form.
Just message us at
You
in
can see
top
all
form, and I can see that. Or, they can message me privately. I really don't care.
So then we're going to enter them in a draw,
Yeah.
and we've got a really cool tactical flashlight for everybody.
Yeah, and by the way, Katie says that she has a female perspective, and she's really into that.
Oh, good. Yeah, and Katie strikes me as somebody that would be picky about it, I think.
Yeah.
I don't want this to turn
Yeah.
like creepy or weird. I just, one time, now this is going to sound weird, but one time, Katie dropped a yoga top in my driveway and it snowed, so no one knew Katie's yoga top was there.
Right.
And then the snow started to melt, and I picked it up with a stick and I was showing it to Robin. And one of my neighbors who was suspicious that Katie would come here, always dressed to the nines. That's why I'm saying this about the MeUndies. And I was showing it to Robin, and one of my neighbors walked by and was like, "Oh, finally, you're sick. Get your comeuppance." So, yes, Katie. Anything good you want to say about
She said,
MeUndies?
yeah,
It's fine.
she's super picky.
Yeah, she is super picky about the
Mhm.
underwear thing. Yeah.
Everybody's excited for the Go Bag episode. They've been waiting for it,
Oh
especially,
my God! So it's
especially
coming.
Steve.
Yeah, Steve is going to get super worked up about this. Yeah, Steve, have somebody have a cold, wet towel to cool you down. We don't want Steve to overheat.
That's right.
That's right. That's going to be an exciting one. So get entered to win the tactical flashlight. Now, if you go to iTunes and give the In Top Forum podcast we've decided 5
5
stars.
stars is appropriate.
I mean, we're not you could give us less, which is fine, but
You could.
well, it doesn't make sense to me.
You're
to
right,
say,
yeah.
They would be lying to
But they're
themselves.
entered to win. But you got to
Yeah.
tell Leslie that you gave us either a 5-star review or a review. Write some nice stuff
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
us. So either of those get you entered to win Tim Ferriss's amazing book, Tools of Titans. So we're giving another copy away. All right, back to the formula. And then finally, we're going to talk about leads, conversion rate, average dollar sale, average number of transactions, and profit margin. For now, just do this for your whole business. We don't have to break it out by lines of business or things like that. Just do this for the whole business. Later, you can get more sophisticated about it. So here's what this profit booster formula looks like. Leads times conversion rate equals the number of customers. That makes sense to me. If I've written anything that you disagree with, you tell me.
Yeah, so I mean, let's use that example again,
Yep.
right? 3,000 leads, 10% conversion, you have 300 customers.
300 customers, right. So you got 300 people giving you money. Customers times the average value or dollar sale times the number of transactions. Okay, make sense?
Right.
So again, we're going to have to do some math there. That's going to be revenue.
Right.
That's your total revenue.
Mhm.
And then we take revenue times profit margins. So Leslie, I'll give you these, and we'll put these in the show notes for everybody. But
Yeah.
we're going to give you an example, and you can jot these down as you go, because you could be working on this by tomorrow, and it makes a big difference. So in your company, let's say you have either estimated or fully determined the following numbers. So here I have 6,000 times 25% conversion rate.
Mhm.
Well, I've got 1,500 customers. So in this example, if you want to write it down, 6,000, that's the number of leads, times the 25% conversion rate gives us 1,500 customers. 1,500 customers times an average dollar sale of $100, and the average customer buys twice in the course of a year, would give us a $300,000 gross revenue.
Right.
So you could have a $50,000 gross revenue in your business, and this is probably going to be as useful, if not more useful to you than somebody that has 300,000. But in a minute, we're going to show you the magic. So 300,000 times a profit margin of 25% would give you a $7,500 profit. That's what you'd have at the end of the year.
Right.
And you can-
75,000.
Or 75,000, right. So what you're seeing is in this 25% profit margin, that means the other 3/4 went to things like buying the product, having it shipped to you, the rent that you pay, the telephone bill, the software that you use, your
Payroll.
employees, right. Exactly. That's what goes into that cost of goods of all of that. So you'd have a $75,000 profit. that's not a bad business right
No.
there. Especially if you're doing what Sam and I suggest, and that you, as the owner, pay yourself a salary for the work that you're doing.
Right.
We run into people who are constantly saying, Leslie's laughing because she's like, isn't that slavery when you don't do that? Yes, it's self-imposed slavery.
No, I've been there.
Without the hideous disruption of families and beatings and things, but it's not good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's what we're saying is, if you're running a business and you're not paying yourself at the level that you should be paid for the work you're doing, you're fooling yourself, nobody else. So, so what would happen if we just tweak this a little bit? So Sam, I'm going to tweak up each of these numbers by 10%.
Okay.
So just 10%. So instead of 6,000 leads, which we had before, I'm going to say we generated 6,600 leads.
Mm-hmm.
In your case, how many leads did you say you had? 3,000.
About 3,000.
So we go up to 3,300. Right? Not that hard.
No.
I mean, any business that's generating 3,000 leads is doing a nice job. But we can all figure out ways, and we're going to talk about marketing as leverage. We're going to talk about the ways that you do this 10%. But first, I want everybody motivated to do it by showing them the magic of this. So we've got 6,600 leads, and the conversion rate, we just boost from 25% to 27.5.
Right.
We're up 10%. That gives us 1,815 customers instead of 1,500 customers, because we got two pieces of magic working for us at the same time. So we take those 1,800 customers, we raise our prices
By 10%.
by 10%. Now, we're going to get into this in more detail, but whenever I raise prices, I always say to myself, well, sometimes you don't even have to do this because you're so grossly underpriced because you're afraid. But I've been raising prices and raising prices and raising prices for years. And so what I have to do is say to myself, what else can I do for this product that would make the client or customer happier yet to pay the extra money? So let's just say you've been grossly underpriced, and you don't even have to worry about that. You're going to have more customers because we got 1,815 instead of 1,500. And we're going to just boost our prices by 10%.
Right.
So you might have a little bit of drop off, but probably not. And so instead of them buying 2 times per year, we're going to get our average of purchasing up to 2.2. This means we're going to have to run some quote unquote sales, by the way, where maybe we're not offering a discount, but we're bundling and offering some extras or things like that. But we're going to do a couple of things to trigger people to just buy a tiny bit more often.
Right.
Now look what happened. Our gross revenue with just 10% on each of those things went from $300,000 to $439,230.
Right.
I think I rounded the pennies on that one. So now you're going to multiply that times the profit margin, which we also boosted 10%.
Right.
So let's figure out how we're going to boost profit margin 10%. We could cut costs, and a lot of times there is fat in the system.
Sure.
So we could reduce costs, and we can find ways to get more.
Yeah, not to mention, everything else being equal, we did raise prices by 10%. So you should see some delta in your profit margin as well, automatically.
But this should also force you to go back and say, what else should I be doing that could increase my margins?
Right.
So now our profit went from, with just that little bit, 75,000 to 120,000.
Right.
So who wouldn't want that?
Right.
I mean, it's just crazy. It's just, it's like mind-numbing.
But I mean, think about this, right? So we went from 75,000 in profit to over 120,000 in profit, which is not double, but close to double.
Yeah,
right?
close to doubling it.
But our delta in customers was only 300.
Correct.
Right. So we had roughly a 20% delta in customers increase, right? The difference, but almost doubled our profits.
And how did we do that? We did it because probably with that few additional customers, we don't have to go hire more people.
Right.
There will be a point at which you will have to hire more people, and then your margins will change again, and you'll start this over. Here's, by the way, if we do it with the 25% increase, we would have 7,500 leads at a 31% conversion rate, which would give us 2,343 in customers. Right. We would multiply that by 125 because we increased that, and we'd go up to 2.5. That would give us a gross revenue of 732,187. Not that big an increase in customers, by the way.
No.
As a percentage, it's 25% increase. So, and then this, if we kept our margins at that same rate, we would now have $228,000 of net profit, up
Right.
from 75.
Right.
So because we're multiplying these
Three
factors
times.
3 times.
Yeah.
So this is extremely powerful stuff. Now, look, if you just get a little change in a couple of these, you're still going to dramatically increase what you're putting in your pocket. So this is the theory we want you to use, and we want you to understand why it works so well. But then I said 7 ways that we could show them how to do it,
Mhm.
but we have between Sam
Well,
and
you
I,
said
we have
7 or more.
7 or more. I did allude. By the way, there's a trick there that Sam was pointing out in the copywriting. 7 or more. So if you saw the 7 or more, you would go 7. That's pretty many, but or more. Come on. So we're using the human brain and the desire that the human brain has for more. It is virtually insatiable. So let's talk about 13. We have 13. We may get through. We're going to end today at 6. We'll go a little
We'll go a
late,
little long.
6:10, something
Yeah.
like that. Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah,
Okay. Is that okay with Steve?
I'm sure we'll find out in a second. If it's okay with Steve.
Steve, let us know.
Steve did
We
say.
don't want Greg Buckley joining us after the Vineyard tour.
Yeah.
We'd be like,
Yeah.
hello! We can be in
Rich.
top
I
4.
went in on a barrel of wine with
Yeah.
a couple people.
Mhm.
So
Is this something the LCB could come after you for?
No, because we participated in the production
Ah.
and packaging, so there's no transfer occurring, right?
Mm.
That's my story, at least.
Yeah. Stick to that.
So so I have a 5th share of a barrel of wine, and we bottled it last night.
You did?
250 bottles of wine
Wow.
in one barrel.
And you
Wow.
bottled it by hand? You had a pump? Did you have a pump?
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole system and
Right.
everything. But
Oh, did you have the automated system where the bottles come through and they get...
no. The assembly line was manual.
Oh,
But
gotcha.
there was like a rig to do it and everything.
So out in Napa, the smaller vineyards have a truck that is a bottling production line.
Yeah.
That comes when it's bottling time. And they have automated that piece that
Yeah.
you were
Yeah.
filming.
Yeah.
So they're very cool. Well, I'm probably going to come over
Anytime.
and just, I want to
Sample.
sample that. Now, is it a red or a white?
It's a
or
red.
rosé? It's a
It's a
red.
red.
So it
Yeah.
needs to hang out for
Yeah,
a little while.
yeah, it'll probably be ideal to drink around a year from now.
I'm going to diary that. See, that's the beautiful thing about electronic diary. So you're going to think, oh, I told Dave about it, but it's a year from now. He won't be here. But ping. Go to sound.
Alexa will save it automatically into his
Yeah,
calendar.
Notes. Oh, yeah. Alexa! Well, she's not listening. It's
Not
weird.
listening.
Yeah. Oh, no, there she is. If you're not talking about anything illicit, like I think the NSA has certain
Keywords.
in the algorithm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like if she hears you talking about 9mm or something like that, then Alexa's much more
Alert.
interested. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, more than once, a guest, not me, but a guest here in my home has been talking about something illegal that they were doing. I'm not. They may have been making up a story,
Right.
but if what they were telling me is true, there are some law enforcement officers that would try to arrest and charge them with a crime.
Sure.
So let's just put it that way. And Alexa's on super high alert, and one of them was in my kitchen and talking. And Alexa, when he finished this little story, said, "I didn't quite hear all of that." It was like a really strange expression too. So let's remind everybody: next week, Go Bag Show.
Go Bag Show.
With Buster Tate and the two of us. We might have to try to get Alex to call in or text in ideas because
Yeah.
he's got a lot of.
We could put him on a tripod right in between you guys on
Like a little-
FaceTime.
That would be cool. So let's talk about some of these. So first of all, you got to do that exercise we were talking at the start.
Right.
You really have to go through and say, how many leads am I getting? How many convert? What's the average sale? What's my average profit margin? Preferably for each of the things, but if that's too big a project, that is essential. So carve out the time to do that. By the way, has anyone commented on our awful picture quality? Since we don't
No.
have our
Not yet, but someone did have whenever you hit like or anything, it goes through all of the emojis.
Mhm.
So I guess I think it was Steve saw the angry emoji and he's like, "What's everybody angry about?"
Well, I like that Steve worries for us, though.
Yeah, it was very nice.
It was. That was lovely, Steve. Okay. Pricing. We alluded to this. So one of the best and easiest ways to boost your profit and your profit margin is increase your prices.
Right.
So there's a whole fear thing here. There's a mindset piece here. But if you're providing aspects of service that other people aren't, you should be unafraid to command higher prices than they do. And understand that only certain people will want those things. But if you have things that differentiate you, rather than becoming a commodity, I mean, the more time goes by and the more Amazon figures out, the more being a commodity seller is just the kiss of death. Yeah,
in that book that we were talking about in the comments, the author mentions that he never wanted to be in a business that he cannot control the price.
Yes. And Leslie, we should put those links up. So I'll bring them up here because there are 4 or 5 books that we have links to.
Okay.
And they are really important for these books that you're talking about, the pricing
The
book. Confessions of a Pricing Man. So good. So let me
I posted in your formula already, so everybody had that to go along with you.
Okay, great. Cool. So I'm just going to get this post for you so you can get those. You can get these links. I put it up in top form, but I'm just going to hand you my phone here so you can.
Sounds
see
good.
What they are, and then you pull it up.
So price, guys.
Yeah, here it is.
Raise your prices.
Here it is. Yeah. So raise them, but do the exercise that I do and figure out. Does this just make you more comfortable increasing the prices? So those links are all in there.
Yeah.
And they're real short little jobbies too. So just figure out, what is it that I've been hearing from my customers that they want or that they like about our business? So people tell us all the time. They tell you too. This is what I like about Dragon Gym as opposed to somewhere else that I trained. This is what I like. And astonishingly, people say things like this to me. I like that I got my documents.
Right.
Like that some people just never finish them with the lawyer, and they're expecting the lawyer to call them. The lawyer's probably thinking, oh, I've lost that client. They never call back. It's just a bad system.
Right.
So find out what it is that people say they really like about you, the kind of customers that you're good at bringing in, and increase your prices and do more of that more consistently and in a better way for people. And raise your prices. I would say almost everybody listening probably has a 5 to 15% give in there already, even if they didn't do anything else.
Absolutely. And we're also talking about acquiring new customers for which the price may not have been quote unquote anchored yet. Right? So we have reluctance, okay, you've been a member of my gym for 30 years, I don't want to raise the price on you. We can debate whether
because you've been we can debate whether that makes sense or not. But let's say we have a sense of loyalty in our business. Motivating.
Right? Okay. But the new person coming in, we haven't established what the value is yet. So that gives us more flexibility as we're acquiring new customers to drive the price up.
And to find out what it is that they want.
Exactly.
And to build that in. Bundling will also help people with this because it will increase in that equation. Bundling is like automatically getting them to buy again.
Right.
And you might take a little bit of a haircut on the margin of the individual products, but you're going to have pre-made a second or third or fourth sale.
Right.
So increase pricing right away in a client customer centered way, which is what else can I do?
Right.
And bundle. So instead of having sales, offer people a good deal on a bundle of things.
Right.
Or offer to buy them or throw in some other product at a reduced rate rather than just like a total sale.
Right.
So you're taking a little bit of a haircut on the premium that's enticing them to buy at full retail price.
But you may be able to find very high margin things that you can bundle in. Like, for us, we offer a service, but we have maybe some digital assets that we can bundle in that aren't really costing me too much more.
But that have a high perceived value.
Exactly.
Like how many times, you back in the DVD days, were you a DVD self-defense technique buyer?
I never was.
I wasn't either, but I would I was a seminar guy.
Yeah.
So, and you and I have gone to training with
I was
other
more of
people.
a seminar person.
Same here. But those guys would always sell that stuff.
That's right.
If they were savvy and you got on their list, you get those. So somebody was buying lots and lots and lots of DVDs. You know me because you've trained me. So I actually have to see it and do it multiple times. So the DVD is useless to me for that. Although I have used things you've taught me in the driveway to drop people to the ground.
That's true.
And they asked for it and then cried like babies and said, and I quote multiple times, "Why did you do that? Like, you asked me to show you."
That's right.
You lay on the ground and cry like a baby. There's a good story about my brother-in-law. We won't get into that one today, but I just want to whet everybody's appetite. He's my
That is a good
ex-brother-in-law
story.
now. Yeah, it's an excellent story.
Michael Citron says when value exceeds price, price is irrelevant.
That's true. I mean, well, it's not, I guess it's not, I agree and disagree with Mike, which is that once it really exceeds, once perceived value is high enough.
Well, you have
it
to create
overrides all.
value, but then you also have to have the ability to communicate the value.
By the way, welcome, Mike.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
That's really that's the key part.
That's brilliant. There's so many people I know that have done all this stuff to develop value. One, they're misguided because they're saying, if I were buying this, what would I
Right.
want, rather than the customer. So they build the wrong value. Or two, let's say they build the right value, then they assume if you build it, they will come and everybody's going to know it. You have to get over that and repeatedly tell people about it. And when you fail to tell them about it, the value's just not there because they have no way of knowing. So Mike, excited that you're here. So really, we're just talking about ways to sell more at bigger margins.
That's right.
But bundling is a great one there. So actually, that's our next one: bundle and add, products and services together. And you gave the next point that I wanted to talk about there, which is find things like Sports Illustrated.
Mm-hmm.
Through the years, Sports Illustrated has given away, if you got a subscription to Sports Illustrated, some of the wackiest stuff.
Right.
Like alarm clocks and
Mhm.
clock radios and I mean just all kinds of weird stuff. Pens and flashlights and I mean we're giving away a tactical flashlight. I don't know why I'm mocking it. But these are not things that necessarily obviously relate to sports.
No.
But they were highly prized and valued. So I'll bet you, let's ask the audience, has anybody ever bought a thing? It could be Sports Illustrated subscription or it could be something else. Has anybody ever bought a thing for the premium that they got?
Right.
So just be always on the lookout for things that you think your audience is really going to like. And you don't want to, this results in buying up self-storage lockers.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to buy 1 million of these things thinking you're right.
Right.
Get a deal on 100 of them, test it out, and if everybody in the world wants one, then just say you have a limited quantity, and then you'll run that same promotion later. But running those kind of promotions is what, in that equation, is going to get more people to come in and more people to buy more stuff. So one of the things that I had here, and you didn't mock me for this when we were talking about it, but I'm curious to see if you agree. You have to be happy. Like people that are distressed, people that don't like their customer base, they find all of these things we're talking about hard to do.
Right.
Because when you're down, when you're angry, then you're not thinking about the customer and the client. You're not thinking about everything from their perspective. And all of these things we've talked about up until now becomes harder to do. So we had a resource in there, I think it's Solve for Happy. Did you come across that one? Leslie, in that list of books?
Oh, it's up there.
Solve for Happy. So Leslie's already got that link. These are affiliate links, by the way. So if you're horrified paying money so that Leslie gets paid, then don't do it.
Yeah.
Like go search them out yourself. But Leslie, you're all in favor of them
Oh yeah,
buying through the affiliate link.
definitely.
And I think we're still, we're going to go a little late, so we have time to put in a little promotion as people come and go. So we just want to remind everybody, Go Bag, which is really going to be what you need at home. So we've got some really cool things, foods that heat themselves up and all that. So listen, understand that survival does not necessarily equate to optimal nutrition all the time.
Right.
But if you don't survive long enough to get back to optimal nutrition, it's a moot point. Yeah. So some of the things we're going to show you, if you're a vegan, gluten-freer, I'm always worried, by the way, when I toast my regular gluten bread, that if Robin has used the toaster, she's got a separate side, that some of the non-gluten might get on mine.
Yeah.
Is that really
Dilute your gluten?
Gluten. So we're going to talk about things you should have at the house to survive. And people go, oh, what could happen? I think in the last week or two, I don't want to get like all bogged down in news stories, but now we know stuff could happen.
Stuff can happen.
Yeah.
Because it is.
And that stuff could not just be nuclear. It
Right.
could be like a storm. I think
Yeah.
there was you could have a hurricane. You could have
Yeah, I
Tornado.
mean, in
Tornado.
Northeast, where we are, you've gotten ice storms that have
Ice
shut power
storm.
Yeah.
for
Days.
multiple days.
in fact, in this neighborhood, you could be down for a week or two.
Yep.
Right.
If just 4 or 5 houses are out, people's like, they don't really.
And I think we take for granted how our power system, and we think it's more robust than
Than
it
it
is.
is.
You know,
Mhm.
because we don't have these frequent blackouts. But as more people are using more and more energy, it's
And it's fragile. And as we're trying to move away from fossil fuels to
Right.
alternative energy,
there might be some gaps in production.
yeah. So join us next week. I think we're gonna do 5 o'clock next week. Yeah. Actually, let us know what the best time is.
Yeah.
Everybody listening, because we are, as the days get shorter and fewer people are outside. That's why we moved this to later. We're gonna go back to our 12 or 1 o'clock start time, which seemed to work for lots of people. But if anybody has an idea, let us know. Now, whether you join us or not, share today's video, because if you're enjoying this or you think you're going to get something out of it, or you know somebody that owns a business, definitely share it with them, or just share it on your page, and then let Leslie know. Just
Yeah.
message in top form, and you'll be entered to win a tactical flashlight in honor of next week. Alrighty. So now here's one that I get a lot of pushbacks, but we'll go back to this one in a little bit.
Sure.
Narrow your marketing focus. So I tell people the source of real wealth is narrower and narrower and narrower focus as you find out who your better customers
Right.
are. And people always want to say, what I have is for everybody.
I run into it with martial arts people all the time. Like, who do you teach? Who are your best students? Well, my style works for everyone. That's not what I'm asking you. Right.
Who wants what you already have,
Yeah.
has the ability to pay for it, likes it, doesn't cause trouble. By the way, I constantly refining my who do I want to sell to,
Right.
and who thinks they want what I have, but is always angry or dissatisfied with it. And that's a tiny number of people.
Sure.
It's maybe 4 or 5% of the people that come into the practice, because the way we market, we're very upfront about everything involved. So there aren't a lot of surprises. But there's still a few people that are consistently surprised. And when you look at it, you go, okay, I sort of know who this is now. And I'm not going to spend money. Look, I'm going to help people that come in and want help.
Sure.
But I'm not going to spend money to recruit clients and customers who are angry and get refunds.
Exactly.
And,
And it goes to that piece of our original formula, right? There's the cost of fulfilling the customer, but there's also the cost of acquiring the customer, right? So if we're only acquiring customers, not only, but trying to acquire more of the customers that stick longer, right?
Yes.
That buy
more.
Yeah, instead of buying 2 transactions from us, maybe they're getting 4 transactions. So automatically that's going to increase our profit margins, because we're still spending this, stipulating that we're still spending the same amount of money to acquire the customer. We're getting a lot more gross revenue.
And I found, even if it costs me a little bit more to acquire the better customer, it's money well spent, because
Right.
the best customers, what I'm looking for are things like this, is do they already want what I have?
Right.
Are they aware of their need and their want? Is it an underserved market where it's hard for them to get that anywhere else?
Right.
Do they value the unique things that I have to offer about how I deliver it? I mean, they could go to LegalZoom, but the kind of people that come to me aren't going to go to LegalZoom. They don't trust, not that LegalZoom wouldn't produce a will or a document for it. They don't trust that it's taking into consideration all of the other factors, like who the beneficiaries are, things like that. And so they buy more, they buy more often. They are happy when we send them the newsletter that's got this information. They call up, should I come back in and spend more money with you and update it? Now, and then they love it when we say, no, you're good. But a certain number of them, do need, it's maybe been 6 or 8 years, and it's time for them to come back in. So I don't know if this is appropriate or not.
That is not on camera.
Oh,
He's
it's
too
not?
low.
Oh, so
Well, then we're good.
yeah. So
Don't lose our family rating.
Tucker is here, just so everybody knows. And he's plonked down, like, all in the show notes, which is interesting. So I do think that greater wealth is in narrowing the focus. Because unless you're making some sort of a terrible decision, you're bringing in this group of people, you're probably going to need fewer people to
Right.
service that than you would if
Right.
you just indiscriminately brought in people. So
Right.
that's going to increase your profit margin in two ways. They're going to pay more willingly and buy more often, like
Mhm.
this is three, and then they're not going to be requiring super high levels of service to stay on.
Right.
They're not going to jump out as customers early. So let's go back to this. I think that there are two sort of meta level strategic ways to do this. One is by honing your communication skills, and one's by honing your marketing skills.
Mhm.
And those two things are not independent
Right.
of one another. So I would start with better communication skills.
Yep.
Then everything you do in marketing, everything you do in negotiating, everything you do in recruiting and onboarding and managing is going to be better when you're a better communication skills person. So Leslie, we have, and I think you probably have already, you beat me to the punch, we have the Coaching Habit book. Is that up there for them?
Mm-hmm.
So if I had to pick a little book
Fantastic book.
that just got more people results, we should put a link for my book up too.
Yeah.
The Language of Parenting, because that's like a primer, a Bible on good communication skills. You can just find that if you Google David M. Fries III and The Language of Parenting, quotation marks, you'll get it. That honing that skill makes you, like I said, better at so many things that are important in business and affect profit margin.
Mhm.
Negotiating skills. So if you go back to a vendor and you say, I'm going to buy more, but I need this from you, this higher level of service or faster delivery or whatever. If you go to a vendor and say, I need 90-day terms while I do this thing, they can just say no. But if you're a better communicator and better negotiator as a result of it, you're going to improve profit margins that way. If you write better copy, you become a better marketer, or you're better at assessing somebody you're hiring to do it. Again, you're going to increase profit margin that way. So the Coaching Habit is a really excellent book if you wanted to focus on one thing. So Solve for Happy, because we want you to be happier, better communication skills. And then on the marketing side, just listen in each week. We've got tons of marketing shows coming up. So we're going to have lots and lots and lots of ways that you can improve the effectiveness of your social media. Direct mail. We're going to do a direct mail show. I've got 2 tests coming up, so we'll show everybody what happens with those. Because that's something that people overlook now.
Yeah.
They just don't use it. Do you use direct mail? Yeah, we do too. And we use direct mail for retention and reactivation of clients too. So we have a hard...
More so there.
Yeah.
We use it for new client acquisition too.
As well.
Yeah.
Yep. So let's see. We've got more. Jeez, we got too many. We're just really too many. Okay, so maximize the 80-20 rule, rinse and repeat here.
Right.
So here's what we're talking about. If you have a full year of data, or you have 2 or 3 years, you're going to be able to go back in and say, in the last year, let me look at my list of customers. Who were the top 10, 15, 20%? And by the top, here's what I mean. I liked working with them.
Right.
They were not hard or expensive to acquire. They bought more than everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
They just seemed happier.
Right.
And they wanted kind of what we're best at. So if you have somebody like that, then there's a subset of them, which is of those people who then referred me other really good clients.
Right.
So now you've got maybe the top 10, 20%, and you've got that top 2 or 3 to 5%.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to look at them and say, who are they? Are they men or are they women? What if they're evenly split? Okay, fine. Then it did break down by gender. Although we could be triggering people just by seemingly confining that to 2 genders.
Sure.
But for marketing, let's just pretend you're saying there's 6?
6 or 7 now.
6 or 7. So let's keep it simple for marketing for the equation.
Sure.
So we're not making any.
Well, for what it's worth, I have a
Absolutely.
friend that has a school that really niched to the LGBTQ community,
Right.
Because that was a gap in the Muay Thai marketplace.
Perfect example.
So
I'm not talking about the gender issue so much as I am the factors that you want to consider.
exactly.
Are they 40? Are they 60?
Right.
Are they the parents of 12-year-olds? Are they? You got to figure out who are they? Where do they live? What you're going to find is that there's clusters of customers too,
Mhm.
and that's not an accident. So if you're going to do direct mail marketing and you already had 50% of your customers from 3 zip codes, guess where you would send most of the marketing? Direct mail when you were testing it. So you want to go in and see, like, what's their, on Facebook, this is pretty easy to do because you can take your existing customer list, or in this case, your best customer list, you can upload it to Facebook. It will then go and look in the geographic region that you define who else looks like these folks, has these same likes, has these same marital status or relationship status or whatever it might be. And it's going to automatically, that's why I like Facebook for small business as a way of figuring out who is it that we want to reach and who converts.
Yeah.
So you want to 80-20, and then within each group, so if you get better, this is going to the how do you narrow the focus.
Right.
So if you're going to start appealing to fewer people, then you're going to get more of
Mhm.
that kind of person who wants this thing you have. And then you can 80-20 that again of this new group of super clients that I have,
Right.
who are the top 5 or 10 or 15. And then again, I don't discourage anybody from looking at the other end of that, which is who do I disappoint? Look,
Mhm.
there probably are people that love working a certain way, that could be your way in your business, and there are probably people that don't like that.
Right.
So stop writing things and putting up content that bring in people who are hostile to how you
Right.
do business too. Okay, limit discounting. This goes to that same fear thing again, which is, I don't want to raise my prices because I'm afraid people will stop buying. So another way that this manifests is I only seem to be able to sell
when I discount.
when I discount.
Yeah.
But that's probably not true. And I think what Sam and I are saying is just stop it or do it in a different way, which is that you offer them something else
Right.
rather than discount the profit margin on
Right.
that. But limit that. Start getting away from sales. It gets the premium in there
Right.
too. You could use that again. Cut costs and waste. Okay, so this is not where I would start, but it's definitely worth looking at. And we've mentioned it a couple of times. You'd be shocked, especially if you had a few years of growth,
Right.
how you start buying software or buying a service that at one time was a really good match for your business,
Mhm.
but it's no longer like, so for example, I am still, it aggravates me every time I see it, but I haven't had the chance to fix it yet. I have a membership. Oh, there's Alexa.
There she is.
She said she's not sure.
Not sure, yeah. So I see this bill for like $9 a month or something for phone tag. This predated when you could do a certain thing with your voicemail and
Right.
messaging. So now that's just all built into Verizon or AT&T or whatever you use. But I still haven't, it's like not painful enough that I've really solved the problem because
Right.
they make it hard. They don't
Mhm.
tell you what the number is on the bill and say you got to track it down. So I tracked it down. I figured out what the number was, but then somebody buzzes me. But I'm going to get rid of that thing.
Yeah.
And sure, it's only $9.99 a month, but there are other things that you probably find other pieces of software that are redundant now or whatever.
And in this day, it's so easy to just add those things on. There's super cheap, $97 for the year or $9.99 a month, and it might be a graphic program or a marketing program or an autoresponder program, and it's good for you right now, just like you said.
But then you move from using Aweber to Infusion, and then you have all these features built in.
That's a great example. I had an Aweber account for years
Mm-hmm.
after migrating to more robust software.
Right, which costs
It's $19 a month, so it's like I don't want to spend the time.
But it's
Yeah.
it's one of those things where a quick audit and you get 6 of those, all of a sudden it's
Yeah.
thousands and thousands
Right.
of dollars. So, but you can see just from the numbers that we're throwing around here that that's probably not going to just in software and things like that make a giant difference, but it can
Mhm.
make a difference. And then this also raises something painful. I can't tell you how many business people I've been talking to lately are like, I've had people working with me for years, and now I'm finding out that they actually aren't doing what I thought they were doing.
Right.
And instead of being a X dollar a year person that they were when they hired them, just from the
So I heard this stat on the Tim Ferriss podcast with Art Devaney. He
Mhm.
said in most organizations, 10% of the personnel do 50% of the work.
it's just breath.
But if you look back on some of the organizations you've been a part of,
That's
well,
true.
Yeah,
It's
Yeah.
true. And so it's hard to look at, but that could be a big number and radically increase margin. Because if you go back and probably those people that aren't doing anything are not the happiest that they could be.
Right.
There's a reason why they're not doing anything. And so let's just put it out there that if you haven't taken a look at this in a while, you've got to take a look at it. And I'll be the first to tell you because it's always painful for me. But that sometimes needs to be addressed. So, also on controlling costs, one of the things I've seen companies successfully do of a certain size is if you're a big workforce and everybody's working overtime, and if that statistic you just said is true, it's aggravating it and eating into margin even more. So one of the things I've seen them do, in addition to culling the herd,
Right.
is to award overtime and extra hours that people want to work based on merit.
Right.
Which and then you combine that with bonuses. Now there's all sorts of disagreement in the universe of people on bonuses, but I do award merit bonuses. My team is a super strong team. It took a long time to get it there by paying attention to this stuff that we're talking about. But if somebody comes to me, well, they weren't actually coming to me anymore, but if somebody wanted extra hours, half the time it was because, like in a bigger organization, it's because they're not working efficiently.
Right.
So extra hours is just making that worse.
Right.
But when somebody comes to me who's like really efficient and says, I need extra hours, I don't want them to burn out.
Mm-hmm.
But if they needed to get a project done, then they get those extra hours
Right.
and they get that overtime rather than somebody else. So now, look, we're not giving employee management legal advice here, but that's something you have to check and see what your employee manual says. But definitely something worth thinking about doing and allowing for it in your manual and in your process with people. I do this. I personally hand out every paycheck, every pay period, and I write a thank you note on it.
Very nice.
But it does have exactly the effect that I put in here, which is you're looking at that person and you know what that paycheck is. You know the gross, not the net. And if you're going around and seeing people and giving them, like, I can honestly say thank you to everybody on my team right now. But that's probably, for everybody listening, that's probably not the case.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a really powerful way of, one, showing people that are working hard for you that you really care.
Right.
And two, realizing when you've got somebody that probably shouldn't be there anymore.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a good metaphor from that or to that, just for your personal financial control, is, and in our businesses too, we just put everything on the credit card, right? It just gets billed automatically. So you don't have that psychological pain of paying for something,
Mm-hmm.
right? And many, big companies like Amazon and Apple are trying to minimize that pain of paying as much
Right.
as possible, right? So, if you pay cash for more things than if you pay with a credit card, you'll probably spend less money in your personal life.
I see grocery stores are going in this direction where the technology is going to be, you go in and you have your grocery store card
Mm-hmm.
and you just pick stuff up and put it in a bag and leave.
That's right.
And your credit card's going to get billed. That's eliminating that pain of payment.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're talking about here, which is personally handing out all those paychecks, is that's paying cash.
That's
more or
right.
less.
That's right.
And I would say, look at the gross, and then remember, you got to add in the cost of all the benefits that you're paying too. And then when you see that person, you're going to say, are they working hard for me, and
Right.
genuinely say thank you, or are they not? In which case, it raises a whole host of other issues. But that's what narrows margins in so many businesses through time. It's just not paying
And
attention.
you can use that to our advantage as the business owner as
Mhm.
well. Is we're a company that's based on monthly dues, right? So people aren't coming in every month and giving me a check. Everybody's on an automatic sort of payment system.
Right.
So one, they don't have to think about and reevaluate their decision to buy from me every single month.
This is on
This happens.
continuity as a booster of margin.
Exactly. So maybe I'm jumping ahead.
No. Oh no. That's the flip side of that,
Right.
which is make it as easy as possible for people to pay you more money.
Right. Convenience.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So cut vendors. So some people are going to throw up their hands and object. And what I mean is just reevaluate your vendor structure. So a lot of times you could get better deals. Like, for example, I used to travel a lot for business when I was speaking to big conferences, conventions all the time. And I would stay at whatever hotel anybody told me to stay at. So eventually I started staying at, in my case, I went to Marriott.
Mm-hmm.
So I was staying all at Marriott or Ritz-Carlton. And then Marriott has, if you're traveling and want to do it less expensively too, they have a couple of brands that are not as as expensive. So I concentrated on my buying with that vendor. Now look, did I occasionally have to stay somewhere else? Of course. Did I occasionally want to stay somewhere else? Of course. But by focusing, I also stopped renting cars for multiple rental companies and just concentrated everything with Hertz. Every now and then, Hertz is like ridiculously expensive in a particular market. But the benefits I get by being a loyalty member, spending a lot with that vendor, is I get upgrades all the time.
Right.
And I did the same thing. It used to be with US Air, and now it's American because
Right.
it's a hub in Philly. So by making those 3 changes and going to those 3 vendors rather than spreading that money around, I got enormous benefits from that. So that's an example on the kind of consumer or business spending side. But you could do this if you have multiple vendors and you can figure out how to cut it. Now, that conflicts with the 2 is 1, 1 is none idea on the surface of it, but it doesn't really. I'm just saying have multiple vendors, have multiple credit card processors, but try to trim them down and try to use your newfound negotiating skills from
improving your communication
skills to get a better deal. And you're going to be able to get better deals when you have fewer vendors. Yeah. So you don't want to be vulnerable, but you want to, you probably could go through and adjust vendors in the same way. I guess this last one that we want to talk about here goes back to the fear again, which is fire, unprofitable. I would say difficult clients and customers too. So people that are just difficult to deal with. You either let them attrit and you don't do all the things that you do for other clients and customers because it's just not a good match. Or in some cases, and this is where the fear mindset piece comes back in again, you have a hard discussion with them, just like when you're cutting employees that work in your team. This is the same thing. It's just not a good match.
Well, yeah, and we all get that stress and fear, like you said, and especially the people that work for us, like, well, we can't ditch a customer. But I put it the other way. So it's just like it's my responsibility as the manager, the owner, to protect my good employees from the bad ones. Mm-hmm. It's my responsibility to protect my good customers from the bad ones. So if you look at it that way, you're not so much firing customers, but you're just protecting the good ones.
And that really is a good mindset way to look at it. So we'll do a couple of quick things here. We'll just remind folks of some prizes that they could win, and then I want to go through these resources. So one of your favorite books, I've got it right here, that you
Confessions of a Pricing Man, How Price Affects Everything, by Herman Simon.
I turned Ty onto this. I don't know if
he's the one that recommended it to me. So
actually, Ty turned me onto this.
Okay.
Yep, you're right. I gave him another book. I'll give you. Yeah, so good. It's a little bit academic because he's an academician.
You think we did some math today?
Yeah.
He definitely knows some math.
But you can read that book and get a lot out of it and get thinking in a new way without having to do all the math.
Right.
So he started out as an academic, then he became a consultant, and then he worked doing pricing in so many different businesses that he really saw these things, across the board. It's just an excellent, excellent book. And we have the links to all these up. Mm-hmm. Getting everything. Oh, this one we didn't mention. But on the marketing side, and a lot of what we're doing here, Jay Abraham, getting everything you can from what you've already got. It's a great book. If you just go to Jay's site, too, there are numerous reports that just get you thinking about what is it that I'm already doing that I could leverage in a completely new and different way.
And, we talked about increasing your leads by 10%. Jay Abraham has another great book, The Sticking Point Solution, which is very good for that.
And Jay also encourages JVs. So, for example, if you have a good offer and you know somebody else that's got an audience, go make an offer and pay them a percentage of that. But you're going to bring more people into your world then at very little or no cost. Like if somebody's sending out a newsletter, if the right person came to me and said, let me put an offer in with your newsletter, what's that going to cost me? The cost of printing and including another sheet in there. And then if they were going to pay me, that would be fine. Or the reverse is true. What if I went to somebody who had who had an audience that looked a lot like mine, but not much overlap, and I made an offer that said they should do this, that, or the other thing, and then I acquired them as a customer for a very low cost of acquisition. All of this that we're talking about, like you're much better at hiring, you're much better at onboarding, you're much better at managing, you're much better at negotiating when you're happy and in a less fearful mindset, because fear stops so much of the kind of activity we've been talking about. So I threw Solve for Happy in here, which is a really interesting book. It's got that Solve for Happy, so it has that sort of engineering bent to it. And then both of us have you ever read this book, The Coaching Habit? I'll get it for you, Leslie. I'll get that for you. It's just I don't know how you pronounce this guy's name. It looks like Bungay Stanier, spelled Michael Bungay Stanier, spelled Bungay Stanier. Yeah. So I'm going to say Stanier, but I don't know.
He has a podcast called The Great Work Podcast.
Oh, he does great work. I've actually heard that. Yeah, I've heard that podcast. So, really excellent book on radically improving your your not just your coaching skills, but your communication skills generally.
Yeah.
And he uses a couple of very simple techniques that if you just started using them a little bit more often would be powerful. So before we wrap up, just a reminder, next week is Go Bag.
Go Bag.
With our special guest, Buster Tate, who really honed the Go Bag technique in Iraq. And I've been a Go Bag guy since I was a kid, so I've got some pretty cool things to show everybody. And we will have the weapon-filled and weapon-free Go Bag versions. Yeah. But typically, if something's happened that is requiring you in some unfortunate circumstances to get back to your home from work or to be able to survive in your home, you probably want to have some
armament,
something that will help you out. Yeah.
Do you want to plug BBO or is it full?
No, it's not quite full. We have that's a great point. So if you would like to experience this in a live event that works for a whole day on strategy and then an entire day on tactics and then the third day merging the two, you only have to come to 2 days. Almost everybody comes to all 3 days anymore. October, it's the first end of the first week.
Now, are you talking about the fourth day?
Oh,
actually, the first day was us.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that too. Okay. There's actually a secret fourth day, which is Wednesday, first Wednesday in October, and there's going to be 4 of you. You're coming to that, sir, right?
I don't know if I'm in. I'll be there, but I don't know if I'm going to be in that session.
Well, you should. You should be there. So it'll be Somnath, me, Ty Crandall, and I think we have room for 1 more person, maybe 2. And we're just going to work on everybody's business in a super small group setting. And people that have done this have come away saying, it's breathtakingly good. But it's a live event. It is, the theme for this year is escape. Nice. So there'll be lock picking probably, something like that. Nice. So that is available at 3 days to success.com. And you can sign up right there. And I think the price goes up in a week or 2. So hop on it if you want to go. There is a few spots left in the main program, and I think 1 or 2 spots left in that first day program.
Intensive,
yeah. To get to the intensive, you have to be signed up for at least the 2 days of the 3-day event. So excellent. Thank you everybody for sharing, for liking. Did anybody like it this week, Leslie?
Oh yeah.
Did they? There was liking?
There was lots of liking.
Oh, hallelujah.
Excellent.
Oh yeah.
So I'm ecstatic about that. All right, thank you, everybody. Have a great week, and we'll see you for Go Bag. This is In Top Form.